This one always lacks liquidity. Gilead reportedly I have stake in Arcus. Man, the float on is pretty tiny. I'm gonna come back to that one. Morning, everybody. What's going on? Yeah, we got a little bit of gap up in the market today. Nothing too crazy. It looks like we're gonna be at like 1%, which is normally like 1% is a little bit too aggressive, but I think it's okay. The price action yesterday was actually really bullish, even though the market was down most of the day. So yesterday the market gapped down. We're down probably like 500 points at the open. But I would say that the price action was really bullish yesterday. I mean, there were stocks just breaking out all over the place. And that's what you want to see. Like, how you'll know if it's like a really strong market is like when you're down a lot during the day. If you've got like stocks that are like trending, if you've got stocks that are trending and like making powerful moves, that's telling you, right, there's some spec money running around. So like if you see like this is Netflix, right? Like you have all these ZM. Look at the red to green on this thing, right? So this is like, $10, $12, even got a VWAP tap on it. That's what you want to see when you're looking at the market. Like you want to see short-term patterns like fire off and trigger. When the short-term bullish patterns are firing off or triggering, then even if the indexes are showing, weakness, it doesn't necessarily mean that the market is weak, right? It's telling you that underneath the hood of the market that there is short-term, bullish price action. So I'm not really that surprised that we gapped up today. I think the key today is going to be, do we come in and clear this 212 area on the 15-minute chart? That looks like it's going to be a little bit of resistance, and we frankly just might, right? We had yesterday a rest day. We're starting to flag kind of over our 50-day moving average, and you can see on our 15-minute chart, you're building out a nice level. Now, we don't know if the market goes or not, but if you start to clear this level, in the morning, then we'll have probably most likely a bullish day on our hands. And just like we saw yesterday, though, the market was getting smoked. The Dow was at least getting smoked like 500 points yesterday, but we were seeing a lot of bullish patterns. How you'll know if the market is really healthy is like when you see speculative names, like see this space. This thing was at $15, like you had a $20, like see the trend on this thing? When you see this kind of like speculative stocks starting to fire, when you start to see them trend, that's telling you that there's been a structural change in the markets recently, and that's healthy. Like you want to see turds fly if you're like a bullish, if you have a bullish bias. You want to see the turds fly. I think that's just the main thing that you always want to do because that's telling you that the spec money's in it. That's kind of, we've been trading this thing back and forth for the last couple days. Let's take a look and see. So it looks like, to repeat, all systems is a go as long as, on the long side, as long as we can get over kind of that 212 area on the QQQs. If we kind of meander around under, that's okay. That doesn't mean that the market's going to fall off or you can't trade to the long side. What it means is that's like when the market's like that, that's a stock picker's day. What I mean by stock picker's day is you have to focus on individual names and that are like really, really powerful. Like it won't lift all stocks. So like when the market is trending, pretty much all stocks go up. The days that the market's down or flat doesn't mean that you can't find any longs. It just becomes a stock picker's day, meaning you have to pick the hottest setups. And then that's where you're going to really get going. Let's take a look at some of these gapper plays, and we'll talk about the watch list. CGen. Like this thing is busting loose here, but this thing's up probably too many days in a row for me. Not my ideal cup of tea. I'm more of a coffee man, so I'll probably leave that thing alone. Sammy. I got a Sammy. Yeah, junk. Earnings season's coming up, but we're kind of just probably seeing a few of the turds just fly around here. Doesn't look like there's anything that aggressive. Roku's gapping up here. Roku's actually really bullish. I think Roku's a buy on dip still. You're on, like, even though you're up multiple days in a row, as long as you hang out over this 50 SMA, man, I had this thing early yesterday too, and I sold it like a turd into resistance, and I took off for the day, and I came back, and it like popped like $6 more. Fuckers, right? Hate that. Yeah, you know what? I had this thing, and then I sold it some in the resistance, and then I'm like, oh, I'm going to take off for the day. I come back, and this thing was just, you know, like a trender all day. You see this thing's gapping up again. I really do like this name. I think on any kind of dips that you see on this thing, any kind of big dips, if you see $5, $6, $7, you know, kind of pullbacks, watch and see, like you can see yesterday, just kind of pull back into this old support level. You can hit these things on the supports, or, you know, watch them go red to green. But if I see this thing just kind of pull back at the open, I do think we get into the 122, 123 zone in the next couple days. Ideally, some type of pullback would be nice on it. Watch this thing around 108 if it does start to pull back. I think that'll probably give us a long on it. It looks pretty good so far. ZS broke out yesterday. If you see here, you got really a nice range break. 1 test, 2 test, 3 test. You got pushing over this. You got a little bit of a gap up on it, but I do like the overall structure of this trade. You're going to have room really up into the, you know, maybe into the 80s if it can hold. This is a nice, you know, and you got curls for the girls coming back up under. Yeah, this one looks pretty good. I'd keep this on the watch list. You want to hit this thing probably on the first dip. That one looks pretty good. Nuggets now had like 2 down days. This is perfect. When you see like a nice trend starting, you want to have like 2 small light days. 2 or 3 small down days are actually really bullish. It indicates a level of anticipation that can come into a stock. It's an anticipation setup or a pullback to a moving average setup. I like Nugget and JNUG. If they can stay above these 9 EMAs right here, I think both of these have some upside to the long side. Peloton is at a real sweet spot. You know, we've been trading this back and forth for a few days. You got a really nice look on this, but you're really getting extended into this 36. So I actually think, you know, like for at least a short-term quick trade, if we get like one more kind of big spike on this, I think we'll get a 1 day short on this that'll actually probably snap like $3-4. I think long term this one looks like it's head into the 40s or 50s. You know, the float on this and the volume is just at a nice real sweet spot where you could see this thing in the 40s or 50s, but I do think you've got to come in back and fill this area. When you get like this extended into resistance, it's really tricky to long. So I would only be long in this off like really some big pullbacks. I do think one more big extension on this will probably get a 1 day short. mRNA, this thing looks amazing. You've got 1 test of resistance, 2, 3, 4. So yesterday was the 4th test of resistance. If you look here on the intraday charts, like that price action on this was just fantastic yesterday. You had an opening dip and then basically a red to green move over here. And the range was, 34 to 38. This is a big breakout. Like if you have like a breakout where you test a level, if you have a breakout where you test a level 4, 5, 6 times, it's giving that area more importance. It's telling you that there's something important about the area. So if we get any kind of pullback towards that breakout spot today, you know, watch this thing for any opening dip into that 36, 36.50 spot. We're going to get ourselves potentially a nice long. Also, if you think about this one, this has got, it's not a low float stock, but it's fairly close. You could ORB on this thing. So if we start to like curl back up, for an ORB, you need 3 sideways candles, right? So it's a push, 3 sideways candles, and then a go. So I think that'll be also a potential setup that you can do on this. Next one, Boeing. These are all my faves for today. Boeing. Boeing, I think, has a chance to go red to green today. If you look at it, you're opening up weak on it. But there was a huge push on this thing from 135 to 148. That's like a really nice trend on it. You got a weak open on this. You're sitting on these two MAs. Like, this thing has a chance now. If it can push off at the open, yeah, I think that if you can push off at the open, this thing is ready to go. Even though it's a larger cap name, this one actually has really good range. So, like, even if you don't like trading $150, $200 names, that doesn't matter, because if you can get like a 20-point range on this, even if you're just whipping around back and forth like 100 shares, you can still make your nut on it. I think that this one's got a chance. If you're looking at the hourly chart here, you're still at that sweet spot. It needs to break that trend. The way it's going to start to break the trend, though, the first thing is it's got to handle this weak open. So what I mean by handle the weak open is, it's below yesterday's close. So you're kind of weak at the open. The first thing it needs to do is go red to green. The second thing it needs to do after the red to green is start to kind of push towards this trend line. If it can, now you're going to start to build into this, and you could get a little squeeze on this. I wouldn't be surprised to see this thing into the 160s if it can break. If it can't break this trend line, you very well, it's just stuck in a box, right? When you're just stuck in a box or in a range, there's two things that happen when you're in range. Either you just ping pong around back and forth, which means like if it can't break here, it's just going to get back into 130s, or you set a new box or a new range if you can break the top of it. So you're right in that sweet spot. It's got to just work itself out. If it can, I think we're going to have ourselves a nice trade. The other thing on it is that the range has been pretty good on it. I think we'll just be okay on that. Hold on here. Let's take a look at ZM. So ZM is weak a little bit on some news this morning. It could be this analyst thing. Who knows? I think it's ZM at this point, the way it's been acting. It's up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days in a row from 110 to 130. I think any pullback on this into this, any kind of deep pullback on this, I would say 140-ish. I think we're going to get a potential buy. So hopefully it gets smoked out at the open. If it gets smoked out at the open, you're looking at like a 15-minute chart. That'll give you a little bit more levels. If you're looking at a 15-minute chart, so if it gets smoked out at the open, watch the old flat top breakout from the previous day and just start watching like some of these levels of support. You have a gap fill here. Gaps do tend to fill over time. So I got, these are kind of like two different levels that, these are two different levels I think you could start watching, whether Verizon news or not, means anything. Who the fuck is Verizon? No, I'm just kidding. I think we just follow the price action on this. One customer is one customer. But I also don't, I don't care about the fundamentals of particular names. I'm just trading the price action on this. I know I got multiple levels of support. If we start to pull back, I think we'll probably get along in it. I do think for today, though, because you're up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days, today is not a day. Like, it needs to pull back a little bit. You could see a 5-10 point pullback on that. And then watch for these gaps to fill. When these gaps start to fill, you'll start to know if, the action on it is still going to be bullish. You're at a 94.96 stochastic, so you're really overbought on it. It's going to need to pull back. And if it does, we'll be there to snap that thing up. A lot of people have been asking me about the cruise lines. They've been untradeable the last couple days. Yesterday you got a little squeeze on it, but the day before was all choppy. And then even yesterday it was kind of an inside day. Like, the momentum on these things is like died down a little bit, where they're just now in a chop zone. We had so much fun with these. Like shorting them, while these things were happening. Now it's kind of like, we're just beating that. what's the term? Beating a dead cat. Right? Beating on something. We're beating on that dead cat, and now you're trying to milk out the last bit of this on the shorts, but like it's come down from 50 to 8. Like how much more can it go down? So that's the other thing is the range and the volatility on it has contracted. It's contracted quite a bit, and the longer it frankly contracts, the more it tells me that we're probably getting closer to a squeeze. I'm watching this trend line break over here, and if this thing starts to go, I think we kind of long this thing. We don't have any clear direction yet on whether it's a long or short. I do think though, as long as you hold above these MAs and the range is contracted so much, that it's probably going to be more bullish than bearish. But I will flip it if these levels just don't hold, or it gets hit with fresh news. That could be it. If it got on the horizon that they were going to do a monster dilution, for example, if you start to get a big dilution going or something brewing like that, that could knock it down. Some type of equity dilution could probably get it smoking down a little bit. They're gonna need cash, but it's just a matter of this thing was like $150. So is it really, is there really that much left on it? I don't know. I think that probably, as long as the market holds up, then, this one has a chance. You don't even have your 50 SMAs at like $63.40. So you have upside on it, but this range definitely needs to start to make its way and get into this. Yeah, if you guys don't have this layout, you guys are more than welcome to have it. Hold on here. Dun, 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 dun. Hey, Eric, how you doing, brother? What's going on? Flogging a horse? That just seems mean. Flogging a horse seems mean, baby. All right. So if this range breaks, we take this thing up. But if we don't, then we leave it alone. CCL looks very, very similar. I think RCL is frankly a little bit easier to trade. CCL trades a little bit thicker. It's more algo city. And it's not as clean. And NCLH is probably, this one, the range is compressed a lot. This one actually looks like it's probably got the most coiled up if it's going to go. And you can see here. And frankly, they just got the best name, right? Norwegian Cruise Lines. That sounds so regal. Like, if you were going to take a cruise, what would you want to take? Carnival Cruise Line? That sounds like there's going to be just a bunch of animals running around doing Jaeger bombs, which is nice, too. But that sounds like a little bit of a different type of fun. That sounds like, like a herpes, gonorrhea type of fun, which can be fun, too. But Norwegian Cruise Lines, man, that just sounds regal. That sounds like you go on a Norwegian Cruise Lines and you're thinking like you're wearing a robe everywhere. Like there's somebody following you around burning incense, chanting your name. Like all the fun stuff that you'd really want to do on a cruise line, if you're a little bit older. So it really just depends. But this thing is looking really coiled. If you look here, the range is compacting. The range is really compressing. So when the range compresses, that's when you really want to go with this thing. Yeah, good. I like this one too. I don't know if it goes today though. I think it's gonna have a little bit more work. This Penn Casinos, if it can break into the 15s, I think we've got something here. You've got like multiple tests of that resistance point. You got the 90 EMA curling up under it. If it can break, like it's gonna be good to go. We just need a little bit of push on this, and you'll have a nice range that's starting to settle. Frankly, Penn moves a lot better than MGM. Like I was watching MGM, for like a potential long too. The problem with MGM is it trades thick. The float on it's really big, right? Float is the number of outstanding shares that can be traded on the open market. So if you have a little bit of a thicker float, then it's gonna it's just not going to ebb and flow right. So that's something to keep an eye on. That's why I like pen. So in our main list for today is going to be, in summary, right? TDOC, ZM, Roku, Tesla, JNUG. Yeah, this thing's looking hot. It's sitting right on that 9. We'd be good to go. Yeah, and I think you add Penn and BA. Those are going to be some nice moves. Also, be nimble today. Do not get complacent with the market. Meaning, the market has been, the volatility has died down. The market has been really shaping up and shaping down. You're grinding higher, and this is like the tricky part of the market because you're not in a crash scenario anymore, but also like the easy money on the long has maybe been made too. If you look, like you've retraced half the gains of the crash. And if you think about like how like retail traders and people think, it's like, it's oftentimes like once everything is already gone, then everybody's like, oh man, like the market's hot. And by the time you think that, sometimes you can get complacent and you can get dusted back the other way. So it's really important to be vigilant. Look for signs on shorter time frames on your indexes. Look for signs on shorter term indexes on the market for signs that maybe you're pulling back. You don't know if the market's going to get bearish or not. What you need to do is look for shorter term signs on smaller term time frames for clues in the change of tape to see like if the market's going to pull back. And so I'm always monitoring, market indexes and stuff like that. It's going to be really, really important to do. Abbott is a really thick stock. It's not my cup of tea I think this, could be a double top here. So I'm not that keen on this one. Just something to kind of be mindful of. Guys, I got to get running. I'm going to be in the Discord room trading. I'll be in the chat room trading all day. So you guys are more than welcome to join us in the Discord room. I stay on screen share and I stay live all day. So you guys are more than welcome to come in, hang out. We've been doing pretty good in these market conditions. I mean, momentum trading is my thing. So let's have some fun today. I want you to really, really manage your risk, and we're gonna be able to get this thing. We're gonna be able to get some fun in this. All right. Trade safe today, guys. Remember, do not be complacent. This market, it can change on a dot. It really can, and we have to make sure that we're shredding with it. Sweet. All right, good luck, everybody. Let's do this.